Hello. There we are. Alright. Thanks for being here. It's Polly Tacos. If this is your first time watching the stream or watching it on VOD, I like to do, again, I'll introduce myself again. It's Polly Tacos. I like to do political commentary sometimes, social commentary sometimes. We do everything. Sometimes we just watch wrestling if we're wanting to chill out, and sometimes video games. Um, Everything we do is normally comes with either a leftist or a feminist lean. So we approach most news stories with at least the feminist lens. Um, yeah, or at least with marginalized folks in mind with each story. So yeah, without further ado, let's talk about. Let's get right into it. So,
I am a.
oh goodness. Oh goodness. I don't need this. All right. Okay, so first story today. First thing we're going to talk about is Joe Biden. Basically, this week has led a lot of us, a lot of us progressives. He's let a lot of us down this week. Essentially, with he's come out publicly and he says that the $15 an hour minimum wage doesn't really have a chance. Um, and see, and this is really important because you know Democrats don't really fall in line in the same way that Republicans do, but what the president says does heavily signal the Democratic strategy and like what's likely to happen. So when the president says that something's not likely to pass, it really does kind of have the chance to sort of hurt. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not a death knell for it, but it definitely signals where the priorities are for the party, right? And so, unfortunately, Joe Biden said in an interview that he thinks that, my guess is that it will not be in it, talking about $15 an hour in the $15 an hour making it into the COVID-19 relief bill. Um, yeah, and it's the same old talking points that have been proven wrong over and over and over again about how it'll destroy small businesses and, it's going to hurt severely the economy and all this stuff. Like making sure people can have a living wage is somehow going to hurt the economy. Um, so yeah, what's so disappointing about this is that like Biden essentially, positioned himself as well, at least he campaigned on one of the most progressive platforms that we've ever seen from a United States president. So like us, I was one of the few people that actually like is still trying and was trying to give Biden the benefit of the doubt. Um, Unfortunately, we've got his solution to a lot of, or at least what he's been proposing that needs to go through Congress, like things that'll quote stick, have been kind of largely disappointing for those of us progressives. Again, giving up on $15 an hour, or signaling for his colleagues to give up on $15 an hour, makes it sort of feel like a virtue signal, right? Like they just sort of like wanted to put that in the bill to say that they tried, but then like when they get even the most mild pushback on it, they're gonna fold, right? They're gonna make sure that they can't. They're going to make sure that they give the Republicans as much as possible in the name of bipartisanship, right? In the name of compromise, right? And we're supposed to be, and they're trying to be seen as the sensible ones. But the problem is that nobody's the sensible one in Congress as far as the Republicans are concerned, and they're going to basically keep taking until we have absolutely nothing, right? So um, yeah, just and it's especially disappointing because it seems like if you campaigned on the most progressive platform ever as a United States president, and you got more votes than any president in history, more people voted for you than any president in history, wouldn't it behoove you to deliver on some of those promises? Like, wouldn't it behoove you wouldn't this be a moment where we can, like, where we can actually, like, say, hey, there's a party that's actually here to fight for you. There's a party that's actually here to deliver on their promises. You know, it's not going to be business as usual. But no, here we are. We got Biden essentially saying we're going back to brunch, right? Like saying, you know, yeah, we're going to say we want to do some things, but we're going to take them away and shelve them for next time, as soon as, like, kind of the going gets tough, right? And I've heard people online saying that it shouldn't have been in the bill in the first place, and you know, I've seen two camps of people that are defending this, right? And those two camps are basically people who say shouldn't have been in the bill in the first place. Like we should just, you know, making people have enough money to live is important in a pandemic, apparently. And then the second thing was it shouldn't have been in the bill in the first place, or we can shelve it for next time. Or oh no, that's what it is. It's a bargaining chip. That's what I've seen people say. Is that it was a bargaining chip. It was never, like, they never thought it was going to go through, but it was just something that they could, like, give and then take away to just, like, have people just to have, like, to have a little bit of wiggle room, to have a little bit of pushback. And I'll address the first one. It absolutely should be in because it's important. Like people need to be able to have as, like, the $15 minimum wage is well overdue, so it's never a bad time to go ahead and get it in. And the longer we wait, the more outdated it's going to be. I mean, arguably, if the law for $15 an hour would have passed, it's arguably too late. Like, with inflation, or like let's see. Like, buying power. So, like, adjusted for inflation, like, I'll just do this. Internet can tell me. Yeah. Yeah, this is what I read earlier. This is okay. So this is if this is what happens if minimum wage would have kept up with the pace of productivity, right? And basically this is what minimum wage would look like. One line is if tracked with productivity since 1968, and this is what happened in $2020. And we were on a pretty good track. Like, basically, this has been tracking, yeah, until the minimum wage, it only kept up with inflation. And not only not kept up with inflation, but rose in step with productivity growth. The logic behind this is straightforward. We expect the wages in general to rise in step with productivity growth. For workers at the bottom who share in the overall improvement of society's living standards, the minimum wage should also rise with productivity. That's a great way to put it. Basically, if you're a person who is a maker or producer in America or any country really, as the productivity rises, your wages should rise as well. Like as your country and as you, as the individual, both produce more things and produce more wealth, your wealth should increase as well because that is your well-being is going to increase in lockstep with the well-being of the people you're producing things for, like corporations, things like that. So it makes sense. It logically makes sense that that minimum wage should increase with productivity, not just inflation, right? The distinction between inflation and productivity is the distinction between inflation and productivity is an important one. If minimum wage rises in step with inflation, then we efficiently ensure that it will allow minimum wage earners to buy the same amount of goods and services through time, protecting them against higher prices. However, if minimum wage if it rises with productivity, that means that the workers will be able to produce more goods and services per hour on average. Minimum wage earners will be able to buy more goods and services through time. So basically it's just saying the same thing. Like instead of just like increasing with inflation is the absolute, it's below the bare minimum really. It's absolute the least thing we can do with minimum wage is trying to make sure that it rises with as the buying power of the single dollar decreases. We obviously need to give people more dollars to be able to spend. That's the idea. Like if $15 an hour or like $7.25 or whatever it is, $7.25 an hour is not a living wage anymore. It's not enough money to pay for rent, food, whatever. That means that the value of dollar is less, right? So they need to give people more money to cover the expenses, right? So people can live and continue to be good workers. So this has tracked minimum wage productivity since 1968. I'm not sure if it says minimum wage. Yeah, okay, so this is roughly the productivity. This is how much the average worker. Okay, no. This is just their summation. Okay. So this is this is just a graph explaining what they say. Showing the figure below. Yeah. Yeah. So $96,000 a year. Wow. Okay. So yeah, it doesn't really say much about the methodology of how they use this productivity growth. Yeah, it doesn't really issues discuss some more detail here. Oh, well, of course. But basically, it's kind of unfortunate that this graph. How did it get in $2020? Okay, so this is adjusted for inflation. Okay, so this graph is adjusted for inflation. This is in $2020, or at least this line is adjusted for inflation. So in 1968, it looks like minimum wage was like $12 an hour in today's money, which is like pretty wild when you think about it. Actually, if you look at this graph, it actually kind of explains like the view a lot of like boomers have about minimum wage. They think that minimum wage is like enough to live on because in 1968 it was it's just barely under what we're asking for now, but it's still wild because like the productivity of every worker when it just shot up to $24 an hour and we're only making $8. So yeah, that's really interesting. Productivity shot up in 1960 apparently. Huh. Anyway, yeah, this is just a graph. I just wanted to show you where we should be as far as minimum wage is concerned. If we matched minimum wage up against the productivity of every worker, we would be up to $24 an hour. But we are scraping for 10 $15 an hour. And most plans for the implementation of that minimum wage say that like it wasn't even gonna kick in until like 2020, like 2024 or some shit. Like, so like by then it's even worse. Like we're even further behind by the time they get it. And I saw some people saying that like some stories saying that people believe they were going to negotiate it down to like up to $10 an hour. Like that was a popular thing. They were trying to keep it in, but negotiate it down to $10 an hour. That's legitimately too late. Like $10 an hour by 2024 is too late. That's not enough to live on today. Like so, 4 years from now or 3 years from now, I guess now, a whole lot of people now. No, but yeah, 3 years from now, it's going to be way not enough to live off of. Like, it's just unfortunate. Obviously, pay people more. You got to be able to pay people a living wage, right? And like for companies as big as your McDonald's and your General Electrics and all those companies, like they're multi-billionaire dollar companies, and they can afford to pay people more. And I've heard a lot of arguments from folks being like, well, small businesses, will be hurting. Most small businesses that you're thinking of are actually like follow a different set of laws than the laws that govern most businesses. Like McDonald's follows a different set of laws than like a mom and pop that's a literal family business. Because I think if you have under so many employees, you're considered a family business, and you don't have to follow minimum wage laws. And like, I don't know. There's just a lot of ways. Like, I know what I do know is that we should, if you're working full time, you should be able to feed yourself and pay for your housing and somewhat comfort. If you're working full time, and that's not the case for a lot of people in the United States right now. They can't. They're like working at least 2 jobs and still not making it. So like I think it's a no-brainer that we should be like paying people more, and that we should because people can't participate, like, and this is even like a weird thing about capitalists that I don't understand, like people can't participate in capitalism if they can't afford to. And so in order for people to participate in the like perpetual growth that capitalism really wants, we're gonna need to like actually give people money. And we saw it on a trend last year during the beginning of the pandemic, when people were first getting their COVID-19 payments, and like politicians were legitimately saying people are making more money to stay home, as if that was like some sort of takedown of the Democrats or something like that. That wasn't like, yeah, people were making more money from the COVID-19 payments than they were making in their regular jobs because they weren't making enough to begin with. Like, that's not the fault of the relief. Like, that doesn't make any sense. That's not the fault of the relievers. That's the fault of folks that don't freaking pay people enough, Just because people suddenly got something that like looked like a living wage, and Republicans were all the way mad about it, and that really kind of tips their hand, I think, more than they understand, But yeah, but here I am complaining about Republicans when this entire story is about Biden. Biden is the one who I'm just been kind of like ranting, these last few minutes about how important I think minimum wage is, but really, like, again, you had a president who ran on the most progressive platform we've ever seen, and already like delivering the bad news, like not even a month in, like JK, like, fighting for the minimum wage hike really wasn't that important to us. It was just sort of a virtue signal, dog. Like, what are you talking about? And that's really disappointing, speaking of being disappointed by Biden, um, also this week, let's see if I still got it up here. Oh no! All right, I gotta find it again. Actually, I can just talk about it. We don't really. I don't think we need a. I don't think we need a visual aid. Hang on. Just say bomb Syria. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Google. All right, yeah, here we go. Yep. Oh, shut up, advertisement. Get out of here. Anyway, um, yeah. So, U.S. bomb facilities in Syria used by Iran-backed militia. Um, basically, I saw in another report. Yeah, we'll listen to this.
We're confident in the target that we went after. We know what we hit.
Oh. So who's this? Who's this guy? Oh, this is Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin. I should know who that is. I guess I'll use the excuse that I didn't see him under the mask, but really I just am clueless and didn't know who that was. I should know who that is. It's somebody I'm going to be complaining about quite a bit, I'm sure. But yeah, this is our Secretary of Defense. What you talking about?
We're confident in the target that we went after. We know what we hit. And we're confident that that target was being used by the same Shia militia that conducted the strikes. And so you'll get more information in terms of the effects of the strike as time goes by. But I just wanted to make sure that I gave you that viewpoint from me, that level of confidence that there is connectivity, and so we're very deliberate about our approach, as you would expect us to be. We allowed and encouraged the Iraqis to investigate and develop intelligence, and that was very helpful to us in refining the target. And let me just finally say that I'm really proud of the men and women in our force who carried out the strike. As you would expect, they performed in a very professional manner, and we're grateful for their service.
Can you say why this was important to do, Mr. Secretary? And was this your recommendation?
It was my recommendation. As we said a number of times, well, we will respond on our timeline. And once again, we wanted to be sure that of the connectivity and wanted to be sure that we had the right targets.
When did the president authorize the strikes? When did the president authorize the strikes? Were you on the phone with him?
Yep. Okay.
It was today, yes.
Was today? Was it?
Yeah. So basically, we struck Syria in retaliation for a U.S. civilian contractor being killed. Yeah, and it's apparently we hit allegedly we hit a facility that was used for an Iran backed militia. Nobody's released anything about how many people were killed yet. And what's interesting is like I read in another report that like it was still kind of ambiguous as to like who was responsible for the death of the contractor. Like nobody had actually confirmed what do we want here? There we go. There we go. Nobody was able to confirm. Hey, 42. Cool. Anyway, nobody was actually able to confirm who was responsible. Like nobody actually took responsibility for the attack on the American contractor. So, and the investigation was still ongoing, and it's really unfortunate that we just jumped to dropping some bombs on some people. We don't know how many like civilians died. We don't know anything about exactly what type of facility was hit. We just have it on faith that they hit the bad guys, right? It's just unfortunate that, like, it really does seem like, you know, we're not even 2 months into this presidency. We're about a month in, yeah. And we already have our first major strike on another country. We already have our first, like, blow dealt by the Biden administration in the proxy war with Russia, you know. I just, like, the one thing that I can say about Trump that was good is that even though he didn't, there's plenty of people that died under Trump. Don't get me wrong, but he didn't try to get us into any new theaters of war. He actually turned planes back that were headed to Syria to bomb people. And here is Biden, the so-called, leftist candidate, the based anarcho-socialist leader that we all were waiting for, apparently, but he's already throwing some bombs over in Syria. Like, my centrist friends have been getting at me on, like, Facebook and other social media and been like, why do Democrats have such a hard on for blowing people up? And I wish I had an answer, but it's just really, really disappointing. But we've just got to be out here speaking against him. Like, we got to be out here, like, you know, we can't be out here making excuses for blowing up some brown people in retaliation, supposed retaliation, right? We can't be making excuses for, oh, we can wait on 15 an hour, like, no, we can't, like we absolutely need to be holding politicians' feet to the fire. And I don't think we can afford to give Biden a pass. Like, I don't think we can afford to say, oh, at least he's not Trump, right? Because that's just going to lead us back. Like we're already there. We're already, like, trying to get back to brunch, like I said. So no, we need to definitely speak out against this. We need to speak up. And if your liberal friends are, like, trying to defend Biden online, just, like, step in. You gotta correct him, because we won't survive 2021 or 2022 even. We won't survive just on not being Trump, right? Like, we've got to start actually, like, showing people a better way, or else we're just gonna get slaughtered. Like, they're really, really trying to make it easy for Republicans in 2022. Okay, so I'm actually going to change up here, see if this actually works. Hey, nice. All right, we're going to content warning here. I'm changing up the title to a content warning for new folks coming in. Actually, I'll just say self harm. Okay, cool. All right, so let's fix that. Yep. We've been updated. And then we got a text. There it is. Cool. So the next story is going to be kind of a heavy one. But it's, like, super important. I really need to talk about it. I feel like this is a topic that I don't think gets hardly any play in the media, from either side, from, like, the left or the right, or the mainstream center, right? I don't think enough people talk about it because it's pretty uncomfortable to talk about. for all sides. But um, so basically, uh, at the Capitol not too long ago, it came out. I guess I guess a couple weeks ago now, but I just learned about it about a week ago. Um, basically, okay. Basically, this story. Let's make myself a little bigger here. I'm tiny. We're not playing video games. There we go. So essentially, two officers that helped fight the Capitol mob die by suicide. And basically, they and many more hurting is what this says. So like, essentially, back to just me. So two officers that helped people that helped stave off the insurrection of the Capitol back in January. They died by suicide a few days later, and their families were trying to basically get their deaths considered to be in the line of duty. The reason why that matters for cops is because um, they can get I think it matters to like the restitution that their family receives. It matters to like the funeral arrangements and like who pays for them. Like there's a lot of legal and basically money that the family could be owed if the death was deemed to be in the line of duty. And it got me to thinking a lot about police officers in general and like policing as a profession. And I got to wondering, I got to wondering, do cops I vaguely remember hearing stories about how police officers essentially. I'm gonna copy this. Um, police officers essentially. Can I just do this? I wish. Hang on. I'm sorry. Oh, no, it didn't work. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, new study shows police are at the highest risk of suicide of any profession. So basically, this is a story from the addiction center, but it's like um, essentially like studying how police officers and this is just mucho texto, so we're gonna go back to my face and also our content warnings there. So essentially the story kind of highlights like how dangerous of a job being a police officer is, and it's not dangerous because of the bad guys are out to get you or whatever, or that that the dogs that are barking at you are gonna visit real harm against you or anything like that. For basically, this story is getting at that that much more likely and a much more prevalent danger for police officers is actually hurting themselves. This story showed that cops were actually police officers that died was actually three times more likely to have died from self harm than to die from suicide. I've got to I'm sorry, I've got to say that, but um, they'd be three times more likely to die from suicide than in the line of duty, like from a perpetrator or like somebody else trying to hurt them. Three times more likely. Like that means for every one officer who died in a shootout or whatever, or in a car accident, even on the job, um, there were three officers that ended their own lives. That's that's really devastating to think about. People already consider police officer to be a really dangerous job, um, which there's conflicting science on that. I mean, for actual people being violent against you while you're on the job, a lot of jobs are actually more dangerous than police officer. But cops do have they've got like this really dangerous, really prevalent kind of dark. I'm trying to like. It's an aspect of the job that they got it. They definitely know about. Like it's a specter that kind of floats in all police precincts because when it's three times the amount of people are dying because they've ended their own lives, um, that's something that officers have to know about. That means that most officers probably know somebody, like they know a colleague that like took their own life. So that's something that they all know is happening, and people don't really know about it, and people and I don't think a lot of cops get a lot of help. And I think that boils down to we start to think about like why does this happen? Why do cops hurt themselves or in their lives at such a high rate? Um, yeah, this study went on to say basically it says as to why it cited that there was a little or to no emphasis on mental health amongst police officers, right? So and that's what when we say that like feminism or especially feminism in 2021 is concerned with men's health as well, along with women's health. That's kind of what we're talking about because men um, men do commit suicide at a pretty obviously many people commit suicide at a pretty alarming rate, but mental health for men is seen as a form of like weakness, right? Like being vulnerable is seen as a form of weakness, and that's just like that's a consequence of toxic masculinity. I've been in many an argument with people about how like feminism is toxic because and they'll say feminism is toxic because if you focus on women, you ignore the problems that face men, and men face X, Y, and Z. And I've even heard people cite like the suicide statistics for men as a reason why feminism is outdated or irrelevant. When in fact, they don't really realize that they're making a point, but it's the exact opposite of the point that they're making. Men are prone to suicide, and especially people in these kind of hyper masculine, hyper idealized positions like police officer are prone to suicide because of the toxic masculinity that they're exposed to in their profession. So, like, seeing a counselor, asking for help, um, being emotionally honest. I mean, honestly, just getting in touch with your emotions are all um, actions that are seen as not very masculine in toxic masculinity. These are actions that are seen as negative and as a betrayal to the hyper idealized avatar of the alpha man, right? And I think a lot of police officers feel like they have to exude that because one, they have to exude that amongst their colleagues because they're in a position where everybody is trying to be hyper masculine because they're trying to be masculine authority figures. But two, they feel like they have to be like they have to perform their masculinity in an authoritative way. And when I say perform masculinity, I mean that in the sense that everybody performs their gender, right? Like that's what, and a lot of cis people don't realize that yes, you cis person, you are performing gender too, um, because you have to. That performance is comes with consequences or benefits or consequences, right? Like if you perform your gender in a certain way, that has rewards, right? For police officers, they feel like if you perform your gender, their masculine gender, or um, I'm mostly speaking about men here. If they perform, because there's women officers too, and they have the same mental health problem. They have a lot of mental health problems just being an officer as well. But I'm mostly speaking about men. Um, anyway, it's seen as less than, and you're not as, and feel like they have to perform their masculinity in a very authoritative manner, and that authoritative manner for them looks like they have to adhere to that idealization of the alpha man, like the ideal man. That's what they're trying to live up to, and the ideal man doesn't exist. Like the idealization of the perfect alpha guy that doesn't need any help and doesn't go to counseling and always helps his community and is as an attractive and it does all the things. It's literally, not only does it not exist, but the ideas of toxic masculinity contradict with each other, and so it can't exist. Like the ideal alpha man that they're trying to achieve is impossible. Like it can't actually exist, and that's in a lot of the evidence for that is in a lot of the mental health problems that spring out of this toxic masculinity, right? And I mentioned women officers earlier, and somebody might say, well, there's women officers. Do they experience toxic masculinity? And I think the answer is obviously yes. They experience the consequences of toxic masculinity, but they are expected to exhibit a certain type of masculinity in their job just because of the nature of being a police officer in this country. Being a police officer in this country is not about being a counselor or about being a force in the community that is soft or anything like that. Like that's not universal of all police officers and all police departments, but that's what a vast majority of the policing folks are kind of pushed into, is a really kind of aggressive, if not kind of defensive slash aggressive approach to the people that you're talking to, because again, officers feel like they're always in danger, so like they feel like they have to be that way, because if you're soft, you're weak, it means you're dead, right? So that means that people feel the need to be hyper masculine, hyper vigilant, hyper authoritative all the time, and that breaks your brain over time. We as humans are not meant to be hard all the time. We as humans are not meant to be um um we're not meant to be like hurting other people. And like a lot of times police officers are put in positions to where they do have to like actually visit harm on people to just do their jobs. And sometimes, it's justified or not. And it's, I think any job, most jobs would come with people needing to seek mental health help. But like police officers definitely are amongst one of the positions that would need it more than anyone. Um, the same article from Addiction Center goes on to say, like, let's see, of the 18,000 law enforcement agencies in the U.S., approximately only 5% currently have suicide prevention training programs. So like 5%, like that means 95% of police um, enforcement agencies across the country have no suicide prevention training. So it's not even something that they even really want to talk about amongst each other. Um, because again, like talking about it is weakness, right? Um, and like this article is like, dismantling the code of silence. And it talks about too, like how people like they people who are police officers and that are hurting mentally are kind of in a really, really terrible position because they cannot, they can't, they just have no outlets. They have nobody they can really talk to because they can't talk to because police officers have built themselves into like to be like a separate class like they have problems that nobody else understands, right? So they can't talk to their spouses or their friends about like the things that they see and do as a police officer because the other people they're talking to just like wouldn't understand or maybe like might judge them or something like that, so they can't like vent. There's no outlet there. They can't speak with their fellow officers about and be emotionally vulnerable with them because that would make you perceived as weak, and people you need strong people like watching your back in the line of duty. You need like in not I mean that completely like ironically, right? Like I mean the belief is that you need people who don't need help when you need help, and so the idea that you're in touch with your emotions or that you're hurting is a potentially you're a liability as a police officer, and that attitude, if not explicitly stated, is certainly implied. That attitude is definitely implied amongst I mean, it's implied when, like, people, like I've been saying all along, like it's implied amongst all police officers that they can't get help, or if they do, they're weaker or lesser than, or like I said, liability. Um, Chuffy says Biden or Trump. Um, I would pick Biden over Trump. I'm not. I'm sorry, Chuffy. I wasn't paying attention. Uh, Oh gosh. All right. Yeah, I'll still pick Biden over Trump. I'll say that. Uh, I'm still gonna say that I would pick Biden over Trump for sure. Uh, because I think that I'll finish my thought and then get back to Biden over Trump. But anyway, what I was saying about police officers and all that was that what's the solution? Okay, like this article tries to get at like why police officers, why suicide rates are so high, and it essentially says that like a lot of officers like turn to drugs and alcohol to cope or whatever, and don't and just go to that instead of actually like trying to feel better about them, like or seeking counseling or another healthy outlet, and they suffer in silence until it's too late. So what's the solution, right? Like officers. It said that the article said that like your average police officer, and that's average, sees 188 disturbing events in their career. And when we say disturbing events, we mean like people being harmed, something that would actually like traumatize you. 188 disturbing events. I've seen like your average person sees like what like 10, 15 disturbing events in their lifetime, police officers see so many more. So what's the solution? What do I think? What would I do tomorrow if I could snap my fingers and fix everything? I'm going to maintain my same attitude when it comes to what I think all cops should do, and that is that good cops quit. I think that police officers, if you're a police officer, if you can find any way to other way to make a living, please do it. Because I think policing in this country is inherently toxic. Policing in the way that we have it set up is a system that is designed to maintain the status quo, and it's designed to basically crush working people under the boot heel of folks who just have all the money and power already. So I think a lot of the problems that we deal with policing are inherent to the system. So I think the only way that we can help police officers and help people who are, in the profession not harm themselves anymore is to improve the societal conditions to where we don't need police to be brutal. Where we need to, like, I think on the one hand we need to take more off of officers' plates. We need to invest in community counseling. We need to invest in more folks that can actually, like, more mental health advocacy in all positions. And I think that when, instead of the cops needing a new tank or whatever, like, or a new, I don't know, if you're from small towns, you're familiar with them, like when they get new cars or whatever, and they get shiny new vehicles or whatnot. Instead of updating that stuff, I think we need to devote some of the police budgets to just counseling services in these cities and things like that, because we need to take more off of police officers' plates. Because I think, obviously a lot of police officers haven't been trained in a lot of the things that they deal with, and that trauma and pain, in my view, comes from people just not being equipped to deal with it, right? Yeah, so it's just, like I said, for cops working right now, I'm gonna say good cops quit. Just find another way to make a living, because because making a living in a job that's like hurting you mentally is not making a living. That's not living at all. I know that's easy to say, but I think, like, even if you're making less money, I think that it's well worth it, because your mental health is worth it. And I think that, like I said, the entire way the system is set up in this country leads to people being hurt mentally. On both sides, like on both, obviously the citizens who are feeling the physical and mental strain of being, oppressed by the police force, but, like, it's also a mental strain on the people actually visiting the, you know, actually doing the acts, like actually oppressing people. Like oppressing people is not what humans naturally want to do. So, and I have to assume, I have to know that not every police officer is the type of person that just got into the job to want to hurt people. I'm sure that's a large group of people, but that's not every police officer. Some police officers really did get into this job thinking that they were going to be a good guy, and that's evident in the extremely high suicide rates when folks hurt themselves when it wasn't what they cracked out what they thought it was going to be. If you're listening to this, I'm going to end this segment here. If you're listening to this and you're not feeling so good, if you're a police officer, or or if you're just not feeling so good, if you can, seek help. If at all possible, just Google suicide hotlines. You know, try, or maybe your friends, if you have anybody that you can talk to. Just please, please, please seek help if you're hurting. I can't stress that enough. If I think that if you are feeling like you don't have value, you do. If you're drawing breath and you're having thoughts in your head and you are, yeah, if you're drawing breath and you're having thoughts in your head, meaning you're alive, that means that you have value. And yeah, just if you can, seek help, and don't beat yourself up if you're too tired to seek help. Okay, and just, yeah. All right, so that's enough for that segment. That's enough. I'm gonna go ahead and uncontent warning here. Whew, that was rough. I really want to talk about it though. This is an important thing that I think gets definitely overlooked by a lot of feminist and leftist spaces. Okay, so we're gonna change up. Oh yeah, if you're still here, Chuffy, I'll definitely pick Biden over Trump for sure. I don't miss Trump at all. I still think he's a fascist president, and I think Biden is just on his way to being a fascist president. So yeah, still Biden over Trump. But yeah. All right. So, um, I'm going to switch gears here. I'm going to update this. Yeah. Take off our content warning on the. Yeah, perfect. Awesome. Okay. So, $26 million Epic Games class action lawsuit settlement. So basically, if you play Fortnite, you might have some V-Bucks coming your way. Is what most of the gaming industry is saying here, and I am honestly just like really surprised by this story and how it's kind of hit. Um, the gaming news sphere, I guess. That's really what's been more surprising about me than anything. Because when I went and like Googled it, because like they just kind of mentioned this story on the latest checkpoint, and it was like the last story they came up with, and they were like, oh yeah, Epic had a $26 million lawsuit settled. They're going to get to pay it in V-Bucks. Lol. And I thought that was so. Like, I went, what? And I had to go look it up. So basically, what it is, that's a bit of a misnomer. It's a little bit of misinformation. So, Fortnite Rocket League players can receive up to $50 or in-game credits, thanks to a $26.5 million settlement resolving an Epic Games class action lawsuit. So basically, the class action lawsuit was brought against Epic Games over loot boxes. Um, Basically, just it's the same thing that like has been kind of embattled in the gaming industry for a while, is people suing over the fact that loot boxes are basically gambling. And that it exploits a lot of triggers that like hurt people who are prone to like addiction. Um, yeah, eligible class action members are anybody in the United States who, at any point between July 2015 and the date of the preliminary approval, had a Fortnite or Rocket League account. They used to play either game on any device in any mode and exchange in-game currency for an in-game benefit, or purchased a virtual currency or other than in-game benefits. Blah 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 blah. So, these are a big deal. That's funny. Yeah, such harm may have taken the form in fraud, breach of contract, and other damages, according to the settlement website. So, like, basically, here's the site too. If you actually want to get on this, the site is epiclootboxessettlement.com. But yeah, if you played, basically, if you played Fortnite between July 15th and basically and 2 days ago, you could get $50. But which is cool, and I'm glad that the sediment class means all. Yeah. So yeah. Basically, you know, Epic was sued over loot boxes and that they were fraudulent or a breach of contract or whatever. People were essentially hurt by loot boxes, which is like a recurring theme that we're going to keep dealing with, I think, in the gaming industry. And essentially, if you did buy or spent any money on either Rocket League or Fortnite in the last 4 years, 6 years, shit. Yeah. In the last 6 years, you get, you're entitled to some dough. Interesting things about this story. That's like just the baseline of the story. What's interesting to me about this story is that, like, one, $50 isn't a lot. But two, like the fact that Epic got to weave this around to where they can potentially pay they can pay for this in currency. Like, in in-game currency. Like you can get you can get $50, or you can get like a thousand Fortnite V-Bucks or whatever. Okay, which is apparently close to the value of $50. That is really wild to me. Like that a company that lost a class action lawsuit can just pay in their own in-game currency. If no, they're not like if you want money, you're gonna get paid money, like real life money. But like imagine if they found out like Caesar's Palace, right, lost a class action lawsuit, like they were cheating the customers, they were cooking the poker tables or whatever, and they owed a ton of customers a ton of money. Wouldn't it be odd if you found out that the company, like that Caesar's Palace is cheating people, they're a cheat? Wouldn't it be odd if they were like, well, we can give you $50 back, or we can give you $50 in poker chips? Like, isn't that like an odd way for like the settlement to have shaken out? You know, like if you're a fraudulent company and you're like cheating people out of money and you're harming people with your product, it seems pretty disingenuous and like borderline like malicious to like offer people in-game currency instead of like real money. And like I said, people are under no obligation to actually take this. If they want to participate in a lawsuit, they can actually get money. But the fact that that Epic has the option that they will, and there's going to be a good portion of people that just take the V-Bucks, right? Like there's going to be an amount of people that just straight take the not the in-game currency, you know, because they're still playing the game. And, you know, hey, that's 1,000 V-Bucks I don't have to spend. But it's just really wild to me because, like, you can't convince me that this is a good thing. This is just letting the company off the hook, essentially, because it's like, if you've ever worked in retail, you kind of understand where we went with this, you know, like if you ever worked retail and somebody comes in and brings a product to you, your boss always tells you give them store credit. Like if it, of course there's different stores with different policies and different levels of like resistance that you're going to get on returns, right? But at very 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 least, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to give them store credit first. You're always supposed to like offer, if it comes to the end of the thing, offer them store credit. Do not offer them cash. Do not give them cash out of the register. Offer them store credit, because we're a retail business. The whole point of a business is to take money from people and give them goods. And if you offer somebody store credit, that means one, they're going to spend money in your store again, and two, you never actually gave out any real cash. You just gave out merchandise, which is worth less than the cash, right? Because that's the whole point of this retail place, is that we want the money more than we want the stuff. So giving somebody stuff in lieu of money does nothing but benefit the main company and does nothing but benefit the corporation. So allowing Epic to just straight like pay people in made up digital dollars in lieu of real life money like is pretty absurd, honestly. Even if it is like at the discretion of the consumer, like even giving them the options is pretty sus, honestly. Like it seems pretty shitty, because you could spend that $50 on the V-Bucks if you wanted, right? Or you could spend the $50 on like food, you know, like it just sets a dangerous precedent, it seems like to me. And it seems like it just is a really shady practice. Like I said, you wouldn't let Caesar's Palace, if Caesar Palace was cheating a bunch of people, you wouldn't let them send people fucking poker chips instead of money. Like that doesn't punish anybody. That just gives them more business. That's what's happening here. That you're selling people more of your game at that point, because like again, this is a class action lawsuit that is 6 years old. So there's people who haven't played Fortnite in like 4 or 5 years that are going to see this announcement or get an email and be like, well, shit, I just got 1,000 free V-Bucks. Might as well go play the game again. And then they're back into the loop of like spending money in the game and getting loot boxes and all that shit. So like, it just seems really, really disingenuous and, like I said, malicious almost, that like we're letting this company pay its class action lawsuit in made up digital currency, and not even the good kind like Bitcoin. Yeah, so that's Epic with living up to their name with squirming out of having to pay people what a court said that they had to pay people. All right. So moving right along. Okay. All right. So talked about Biden, talked about cops, talked about Epic Games. I think that's cool. Okay. So now we're going to talk about we've had some pretty heavy and negative stories, so we're going to end on a pretty on a good note here. We're going to end on a positive note. Oh, we just stopped the. There we go. Oh, that's nice. We got our music back. We record scratched and stopped for serious topics, but we're back to cool stuff. Okay, so this story I heard on NPR the other day, and it is based as hell. Okay, so check this out. Oh God, go away! I hate these. I literally hate these ads so much. Anyway, grassroots. All right, so my old apartment campaign highlights tenant rights in PEI. Grassroots campaign helps former tenants share rental information with new tenants. So basically, it's this program called My Old Apartment, where they send people these cards that say, "Are you paying too much for rent?" And I moved out on this date, and my rent was this dollars. The legal rent increase on the PE is 1.3% from 2020 to 2021, and only 1% in 2021. If you're paying too much rent, file a Form 2 to get some money back. Details inside. Right, so like basically it's this it's these cards that you can have, like you can it's these cards that like you send or get sent to the people. Oh no, that's what it is. You like basically it's these cards that you can get in which you can fill out and send to where you used to live, like the address that you used to live, and it'll like inform people like what you used to pay for rent. And the reason why that's so based is because like a lot of the times landlords will just like raise rent from one tenant to the other, because like there's no way to know if I move into a place and they're hey, welcome. Thank you. Please think I'm bot. All right. Please don't think I'm a bot. That is an epic name. Wow. Yeah, please don't think I'm a bot. Thank you for joining. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate you. Anyway, as I was saying, so my old apartment is this program where basically folks will get a card where you fill out what you used to make. And so say I'm like moving into an apartment and they want to charge me $15 a month. Woo! Yeah, that's what they want. $1,500 a month. I have no way of knowing like where they got that number from, or like what they were charging, like why they're charging that, or what the previous tenants were making. And like there's a but with this, you can actually look on the card and say, oh, the last tenant here only paid $1,200. Um, what's up with that? You can file a form. Yeah, $200, $300 more. Yeah, so like, basically you can fill out a form, to where government action, a form to where, you can not only pay less in rent if you successfully file this form too. You can not only pay less rent, but your landlord is actually owes you back rent. Like, people are making thousands of dollars off of this program. People are making thousands of dollars back on this program. It's like 15 minutes out of your day, and people, it's like life changing. Like, people are making all kinds of money on this, and that's like so cool. Yeah. Yama Champion, you joined yesterday, so I was getting that up there. And we're gonna play this one again too. I'm not a bot. Or not. Yeah! Please don't think I'm a bot. That's like the greatest name ever. Anyway, so, yeah, super based that there's this, program that people can actually, yeah, oh, I clicked it twice. That people can actually like get some back rent. It's like life changing, and it takes like 15 minutes. Oh yeah, whoops, we hit that one too many times. Hopefully that's the last time it pops up. I get too excited when I get new followers. But anyway, if you're watching the stream and you're interested in checking this out, you can go to My Old Apartment. Their Twitter, they have a Twitter handle, just myoldtwitter.com/myold apartment. Also follow me. I'm Polly Tacos. You can follow your boy Polly Tacos on Twitter. Oh, I should put this up on the screen. Yeah. So you should follow. First, most importantly, follow Polly Tacos. Just do it. But yeah, you can go check out. I'm gonna follow them. You can go check out Fighting Legal Rent Increases with Snail Mail. Are you paying too much for rent? Have you moved? Please retweet and like, yeah. So like, basically, it's for both people. If you contact them, they'll try to get the people that used to live in your apartment. But if you used to live in a place, you can send the cards. You can send the cards regardless. And like, NPR was interviewing, I think this. Oh, that's Syria. NPR was interviewing, I think this person says she started the initiative. To help her own tenants. To help tenants make sure they were getting a fair deal. So like, yeah, this person was speaking with NPR, and they asked her, they were like, hey, what do landlords think about what you're doing? And she was like, honest ones love it. You know, like, honest landlords legitimately love what they're doing, because they don't like when not so honest landlords make them look bad when they act like assholes, right? And they try to raise rent for no good reason. And yeah, I like that. She said that most of the landlords she talked to actually were really big fans of this, and I thought that was really cool. So yeah, My Old Apartment at Apartment Old is the actual Twitter handle. At Apartment Old, it's the one with 10,000 followers. But yeah, you can, if you just recently moved or wanted to help out somebody who used to live in your old apartment, you can hit them up. If you're worried you're paying too much for rent, you can hit them up too. Because helping people not get fucked over by their landlord is based as hell. It's based as fuck. I'm so glad that somebody is out here doing this. Like, it's like some real life superhero stuff. Super cool thing. Yeah. So, it's, I'm glad I had a few people come by and hang out with me. My kid has been upstairs screaming her dang head off for the last half hour. So I think I'm gonna cut it short today. We're gonna have a nice little short episode. If you're new in the chat, or new to view the page, welcome, welcome, Poly Tacos. I'm going to be streaming every weekend now. Around this time, I'm going to start streaming on the weekends and then on Mondays as well. Weekends are going to be for commentary. Mondays are going to be for watching wrestling videos and video games. Tomorrow, I plan on being back on in the afternoon around 2 o'clock. Earlier on in the afternoon tomorrow, we're actually going to be doing a wrestling roundup. I'm going to be talking about professional wrestling. We're going to be going over some news of the week, and then I will be highlighting some of my favorite promotions / wrestlers in the game right now. I'm Poly Tacos. Yeah, there we are. I'm Poly Tacos. Thank you so much for being here. Hey! Our follower goal updated. That's amazing. Cool, cool, cool. Yeah, I'm Poly Tacos. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate the follow. If you hit the follow, I really appreciate your time. Like, just thanks for hanging out and let me vent about some of the things that were bothering me this week. Tomorrow I'm gonna be doing fun stuff, talking about wrestling. Tune into that. It's gonna be about 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. Yeah. Have a great night, y'all. Please remember to be kind to each other, but way more important than that, please remember to be kind to yourself. Y'all have a beautiful day. I love you very much.